Give me a P.
P,
Give me an H. Give
H,
me a B.
B.
What do you say? Hey,
Hey,
give me a P.
P,
Give me an H.
H,
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Hey, welcome to Promote Her Business and our Promotion Pro series, where the whole concept is every year we identify the top 12 best practices in marketing and sales today. And then once a month, we give you the best of the best experts in an area of marketing, sales, and business so that you can continue to grow your skills year round. So welcome to Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other. Say it with me now.
Online, offline,
all
all the time.
time. My name is Josephine Hannon, but you can call me Jose. I'm going to be your hostess with the mostest today and leading this exciting interview. And the topic of today and the month is influence, because as women and as male allies, it is so important that we are owning our influence, we are spreading our influence, and we are using our influence collectively to promote each other. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I totally want to be more influential, but I have no idea how to do it, or I totally want to be more influential because who the heck doesn't want to be, then, and you want to elevate yourself, then you are in the right space. So today I have the privilege of introducing Melissa E. Sanchez. She is not only our chapter advisor, but she's also a very amazing, multi-talented business and career coach, and she has nearly 15 years of experience in human resources, so she can help us be influential as entrepreneurs, as women in the corporate world, with our families, anywhere we want to be. She knows how to help us get there. So Melissa, are you with us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, so happy to have you. and I know everyone adores you. We're so glad to have you back. Melissa, if you haven't listened earlier in the year, Melissa had done a whole interview with us on how to really take your networking to the next level with corporate and also get in front of decision makers and HR. And it was such a hit that we were like, we got to have her back.
Glad to be back.
So cool.
Great.
So Miss Expert on Influence, I have a question for you. My first question, it sounds obvious, but I don't think it actually is that obvious. And the question is, what is the definition of influence?
Yeah, and I love that you just mentioned that it sounds obvious, but really the simple definition is moving people to action through our ability to be truly who we are. So if you think about it in the sense of communicating to influence, right? A lot of times in the past, actually, people would communicate in order to relay some information or share a topic or share how they want things to be done. Influencing is actually creating that buy-in that people are now actually doing and moving to an action that you want them to be moving in because they are bought in and they are either inspired or empowered by who you are, what you're doing, and what your overall vision is. That's the definition of influence.
I love that. And I think it's so important to be hearing this, because I know with entrepreneurs, a lot of times, they're coming from all different backgrounds. Sometimes they had a very high position in a corporation or something and a fancy title, and now they're entrepreneurs and they're like, oh, am I going to have it? Am I going to have the same influence, the same power as an entrepreneur as I had when I came from a titled background in
Sure.
an organization?
Sure. And that's correct. I mean, a title is simply just that, a title. And in the entrepreneur world, it doesn't mean anything. It's how are you creating that influence so that others will follow, so that others will seek you out, so that others can actually be inspired and motivated with what you have to say. So that's where influence is very much different from simply communicating.
Hmm. And I'm curious, like, I know you just talked about for entrepreneurs, but also, obviously in our Promote Her business community, I'm curious, like, what do you think is the relationship, or why, now out of all times in history, is it so important for women to be on top of being influential?
Yeah, women influencers is extremely big right now. Being a woman influencer is really about one, sharing your voice, speaking your mind, living in a world that isn't predominantly dominated. No offense to our male allies on the call, but it's not living in the male world and that men eat men world. It's all about, we now are in a position to be at the table. We are at the table. We are voicing our issues, voicing our concerns, and now we are being able to shape and form maybe the communities that we're in, maybe a political landscape that we're in, maybe, just different various ways in our lives that we as women can really be on top of being an influencer and being able to share and inspire others and motivate others to action. And for entrepreneurship, it's the same mindset as well, right? Gone are the days of thinking about the big box stores, if you would imagine that, like the big corporations. I mean, they're still there, of course, like the McDonald's and the Walmarts and the Googles, and here in the Valley, obviously the Oracles and the Ciscos, they're still there. But there's more empowerment these days around the solo entrepreneurs, the small business owners, the micro business owners, because we are what's making the economy roar right now. It's all about how are the small business owners coming together and really having their voice be heard, having their concerns be heard, and becoming influencers themselves in either setting a trend, being a trailblazer, disrupting an industry. That's all through the mindset of being an influencer and being able to really be out there and voicing your concerns and sharing, again, that inspiration and motivation for others to move forward and take action.
I love that. And I love
Yeah.
I love how you're getting at, even thinking bigger than your business as part of this influence equation.
Yes.
Because a lot of times you can be so head down, buried in what you're doing, or just taking action, or just trying to pay, your bill for that month, or whatever it is, that sometimes you miss, what's possible. And like you're saying, I mean, as even a solopreneur, you can disrupt or direct an entire industry, right? You have that power, and I love that you're bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious, as we're talking about this, what I'm hearing is that, being in business, being an entrepreneur, it's not just about doing whatever you're doing or selling whatever you're selling, but it's also leading, right? Like that's what you're talking about, is leading an industry, leading a business, leading a direction, a paradigm of what's next when you're at the table. And so I'm curious, like, what have you found is really the relationship between leadership and influence?
Sure. Again, leaders of the past would maybe be so focused on communicating or figuring out what can I say that is going to really get people to do what I want. And yes, you still want to be cognizant and aware of what you're saying to get people to do what you want. But connecting it as an effective leader would be really connecting it to the point of influencing others to do what we want them to do. So by influencing others, you're now almost embodying a message. You're creating a vision for people to work towards. That vision, you're focused on more of the bigger picture and how it's going to impact them emotionally. So the people that are going to be taking this action need to know what's in it for them, how for them it's going to impact them personally. And then you're really looking again to help connect with them emotionally and going back to the inspiring and motivating them to take action. Because the inspiring and motivating people to take action as a leader can be so much more effective and sustainable in the long run versus maybe communicating the task that needs to be done at hand. And communicating the task that needs to be done at hand, sure, you may get success out of it as a leader and they may do it, but is it really them putting all their mind, their heart, their soul, their energy into that particular task to really focus on the greater, bigger picture of the vision and the goal of the organization, of the business, of whatever it is you are trying to accomplish for yourself.
And I think that is so important. I just want to take it from the conceptual to the practical. And I totally agree with what you said, but I think to just like break it down into a specific example would be great. So let's say that my goal is to get people to buy this iPhone case.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool, sure, because it pulls out and in. I should be an affiliate, but
that's a very cool iPhone case, I should say.
I really should at this point. But the point is clearly I'm passionate about this, and I want to, let's say I just want to spread these awesome iPhone cases around the world, and I want to influence people. So what you're saying is, in the past, the traditional would be like, I would come to you and I'd say, Melissa, I want to influence more people around this case, so tell me what to say. And you're telling me, there's more to it than just figuring out the right script. So like in this case, like what other things would I have to think about in terms of getting more people to want to use this, buy this, spread this?
Yes. So communicating would be simply, and this is of the past, would be simply, so here's why you want to buy it, here's how much it costs, here's how it's going to help you, it looks like it's very efficient in its design, here's its design, it looks pretty cool, etc., etc. So that's communicating it, that's informing somebody about it, and that's maybe, telling somebody, that looks like a pretty cool thing that I want to buy. Influencing around it, however, is, so tell me more about what is your long-term goal for yourself and that phone. What does that phone mean to you? What is having such a case like that going to do for you? How is it going to make you feel? How does it make you feel to have a case like that? How are you going to now be different because of that case that you have in front of you? So it's really tugging at the heartstrings and, again, inspiring somebody to say, wow, that case can really make a difference for me. And I want it, right? I want that case. It's going to help me become more confident. It's going to help me be more efficient, it looks like, because of the fact that you can put your credit cards and your business cards there right there and back and not carry two separate things. And at the end of the day, it's going to make me look more professional and make me feel more professional in what I'm doing and what I want to accomplish. So there's a little bit of a different spin to it, but it's beyond the just telling of certain facts and sharing of certain information. It's helping them start to feel and connect to it on a different level.
Mm-hmm. I really love that. I mean, what it seems like to me is you're moving from an it-centric reality to a you-centric reality, where it's not so much just listing the features and benefits of the thing itself, but seeing it in the eyes of the person you want to influence, and maybe even be like you're being influenced by the people you want to influence and how you're approaching it. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I hope everybody's taking some serious notes on this, because this is not how selling or influence has been done for years. I mean, this is a different paradigm that Melissa is talking about. So if you haven't yet, make sure to get out your pen, take some copious notes as we go, because this will blow your mind and blow your effectiveness. Just by doing some simple things sustainably, it can make a big difference in your business.
Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I'm really getting from this, Melissa, is it seems like it has a different energy around it when you are talking to people in this way versus, you know, in the past and our thoughts about sales with neglecting the influence part of it. I've heard something, it's called energy leadership. I know it's kind of gaining more popularity right now, and I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts? And for people who haven't even heard this term yet, who totally need to hear about this, you know, what is energy leadership, and is it worth looking into?
Yeah. So energy leadership is about all of what, first and foremost, all of us seeing ourselves as leaders, right? So historically, again, leaders were the ones that had titles. Leaders were the ones that were, you know, in big positions in government or in big positions in society, in big positions in, you know, the corporate world. We, first and foremost, are all leaders in our own right, right? So being able to lead ourselves as leaders is extremely key. Now, when you tack on the word energy leadership, that is all about how are we seeing the world around us? How do we perceive others? What is our attitude towards certain situations? What is our perception? And perception can be reality for others of us when we are out and about, and the type of energy that we bring to those all around us. So energy leadership is all about, yes, I'm a leader, and at the same time, how am I viewing the world around me? And then how am I also showing up for them in their eyes? So that's where, you know, energy leadership is, and which is why it's such a key part of influencing, because when you're influencing others to be a part of your world, be a part of your leadership, energy leadership paradigm, so to speak, it's almost like you're inviting them to come work for you as an entrepreneur. You're wanting them to come follow you. You're wanting them to just be around you as an influencer. That's where energy leadership and influencing skills come so hand in hand, because now you're not just sitting there thinking, okay, I need to sell and market constantly. Sales and marketing is extremely important, and that's the actual task at hand that you need to complete and execute on. But influencing and energy leadership is all about your being. It's all about being authentic. It's all about how are you, again, showing yourself, showing up to those around you, and, you know, bringing them along and inspiring and motivating them to take action.
And I think I think you just hit on something that's super critical, because to me, selling a product or a service is a one-time or hopefully a multi-time interaction, but it's really just between them and whatever, you know, they're buying from you, versus yes, if they're in your energy and they love your energy and they love being around you, it doesn't matter what you're selling or what business you're in or what new book you came out with. The reality is they're going to gravitate towards you because they like your energy, right? It's not like fluffy or soft or anything. I mean, this is very practical, you know, and in fact, you know, the other thing that came up for me is, as a speaker, and I know you're also an excellent speaker, is, you know, a lot of times I'll talk to people after I give a talk and I'll say, oh, what did you like about my speech? And it's one of my favorite questions to ask, to get a pulse on people. And you'd be surprised how many times people will say, Joe, I just really loved your energy.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It's just funny, you know, like I'm waiting for, like, I love that tip that you gave. And in reality, they loved my energy, you know? So, you know, that's ultimately, you know, what attracts a lot of people to speakers and authors and leaders, right?
Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm. Absolutely correct. All right. Hit the nail on the nose. And the other piece too is energy is perceived by a lot of people as, well, I have to be high energy. I have to be super high. Energy is what's authentic to you. So if you are a speaker that is very, you know, energetic and highly motivated and funny and maybe talks, you know, you're going to definitely speak to those people that are attracted to that. But other folks will say, well, I'm a little bit more reserved. I'm a little bit more, I can't really come up with a story or a funny tactical joke. which is okay. But then, so then be who you are. What is your what is your strength? What is your ability that can really resonate with people that they will then be attracted to you as well? Because then maybe for you, it's a story of vulnerability for someone who's maybe a little more reserved, or a story of maybe how you overcame a certain challenge that really was, difficult for you, and how you overcame such a difficult situation. So energy doesn't necessarily always have to be the, hey, yeah, it's great to meet you. It can also just be the more subtle, genuine, here's what I've been going through, and I've had such a tough time, but here's what I did to overcome it. Oops, sorry, my dog is barking in the background. Apologies.
Oh, man, that's great energy on this call.
Oh.
All right.
Amen.
So, I think it's so, I think the other piece of this, like you were really getting at, Melissa, is, everybody has different energies. And one thing I would challenge everybody on this call is to start paying attention, start paying attention to what your energy is, and we're going to talk about this. I am going to ask Melissa about this later. So stay, you're going to want to listen to this whole interview, because I am going to ask her about how you can totally assess your energy. But before we get to that point, I think I had read this quote a while back that said, you will never influence the world if you are just like everyone in the world. And I think that gets to what you're saying is also that, being your authentic self, it's great to be your authentic self because it feels better, but also it makes you stand out, right? It differentiates you. So it's smart business savvy, because if everybody had Tony Robbins energy, he's awesome and it differentiates him as Tony Robbins, but I don't want to be Tony Robbins. Melissa is not trying to be Tony Robbins, right? We want to be our own self, not a copy of somebody else, right? So
Absolutely.
That's big. And I'm curious, Melissa, though, with that said, obviously there are certain energies people are more attracted to than others. Who would you say are your biggest role models of influence?
My biggest role models of influence are, it's interesting, from a more larger scale, I guess from the more popularity scope of things. Richard Branson is one of them. He is the CEO and founder of Virgin America, Virgin Records. He's had multiple organizations and companies out there. And why I find him to be such a major influencer is not only one, is he just of a genius mind and sees no limits to things. Like, I want to go and conquer space one day. Sure, great. No limitation there, right? Just believes one day he's going to find a way to conquer space. And I think one of his most recent comments he's made is, next for me is the ocean. There's so much to be uncovered and discovered down in the ocean. What can we do down there? So he's just of the mindset of just limitless opportunities. There's nothing that we cannot do and accomplish. And that's why I admire him so much from an influencing standpoint. And plus, he's huge around philanthropy and giving back to the community. Second, I don't know if many of you know, her name is Sally Krawcheck. I have her book here in front of me, actually. Sally Krawcheck, she wrote this book called Own It. She's also the founder of another great women's network called Elevate. It's an online women's community. And what she's been able to do is, again, focus on being a woman and being able to participate in a man's world. She was a former chief financial officer of the huge company Merrill Lynch, right? And Merrill Lynch was a wealth management group. And of course, financial advisors and wealth management historically have been dominated by men. And Sally was just one of those women that continued to break the glass ceiling. She continued to really push the norms, get these men out of their comfort zones, and start accepting and acknowledging that women have a voice too, and women can really bring a lot to the table. So I admire her a lot in terms of her work and what she's been able to do. And then another influencer that I like to follow a lot also is Arianna Huffington. She's of the Huffington Post. She wrote several books, like Thrive is definitely one of her books recently. She's let go of the Huffington Post and she started her own online magazine's lifestyle website called Thrive Global. But she's the founder originally of the Huffington Post. So just really some really dynamic people that have their hands in several different pockets, and just are able to, again, influence in such a way that people will follow them, people will talk about them, they've got opinions of their own. Not necessarily everyone will agree with them, but they stand firm in their opinions and they don't waver, and are able to really inspire and motivate others to move to action, to do things for themselves, to really get themselves to really taking action for whatever it is they need to take action for. Locally, I think there's some really great influencers locally. I'm trying to get more involved in maybe local government. There's a woman by the name of Susan Ellenberg. I don't know if any of you have met her. She's Board of Supervisors here in San Jose. She's a woman of great influence. I think she's been able to really tap into some challenges here in the San Jose. I live in San Jose, so the San Jose area, and figure out ways to kind of combat some of the challenges that we're having, like with maturing population, as well as homelessness and things of that nature that she's trying to tackle. And then for myself, I think as a business coach, I've been mentored by many out there, and I actually have my own mentor back on the East Coast. Her name is Karen Mayer, and she's a huge influence for mine. She used to be a CHO, Chief Human Resources Officer for Naturalizer. I don't know if many of you remember or heard of that shoe company. And she's based out there, and she's been able to kind of mentor me and talk to me a lot about what she's been able to do. And she's an influencer for me because of just what she's been able to accomplish and how she leads her life. And that's also a differentiator between an influencer and someone who's just of a power of authority. Is it's almost like the way she is and her level of being is kind of how I want to be. And that's what's really exciting about working with her and continuously talking with her on a regular basis.
Cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll ask people on our leadership team, I'll ask, people in general, us women, what does it mean for you to be an influencer? What's like that definition? And a lot of times they struggle with it. It's kind of conceptual. Like, I want people to do things for me, but I can't really articulate what it means for myself. And I just think what you just did right now in terms of telling us who you admire as role models are, they're people who impact you, but I think it also is very telling on what's important to you, right? Because, it seems to me like having endless possibilities is important to you, having a voice, having your own opinions, being able to make something amazing like, Huffington Post, and yet, being able to move on to the next thing, the next level of excellence is important for you, holistically, not just being in the world of business, but you also care about politics and social and economic in the world. So you're a very holistic person.
Yes.
In terms of influence. And then you're also looking, not just at really famous people, but also people who directly impacted you, right? Like your mentor that you were telling us about. So, I mean, I really love that. And I would really encourage everybody to just, take a minute. If you're listening to the replay, just stop it here, take a minute, write down who are your biggest role models, and then what do you like about them, and you can find out so much about yourself as what's important to you. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to move into the question. I know we're all dying to know, and I kind of put it on a cliffhanger, which is, we were talking about our own energy and our own influence. and paying more attention to that, because it, you know, it can definitely touch our bottom line in big ways. And also, I mean, it's just important for us to be our authentic selves, right? So Melissa, like, what is the secret to really assessing how influential you are?
Well, there's a couple different ways that you can assess your influence. One is probably the more practical and logical way that and unfortunately, I think a lot of advertisers would say how influential one person is it's based on your followers. It's your followers on Facebook, it's your followers on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. You know, one big way, and that's again how advertisers and practical marketers will gauge your influence, is how many followers do you have? The more followers you have, the more influential you have. And again, by followers, these may not necessarily be people that all, predominantly, yes, they do follow you because they like with what you have to say and what you're doing out there, and they want to make sure that they always check in to see what you're doing. But who's to say that maybe 5 to 10% are the people that actually don't like you either? It doesn't mean that or they could be your direct competitors. They're just following you because they want to still keep an eye on you, but they still have that intent of maybe they're your competitor. And they are very much interested in seeing what you're doing. So that means you're already at a level of influencing because they're following you. Your competitors are following you. Secondly, another way to assess influence is you can always constantly ask for feedback, right? What are some things that I'm doing right? What are some things that I could be doing better? How can I raise my game to that next level? And people you can ask can be people that you work with, like your partners, your promotion partners. It could be your employees, that if you've got employees in your organization, in your company, you can talk with them about it. It most especially should be your clients. You know, what are some of the things that cause you to want to follow me, and how do I inspire? How do I motivate you as a client, right? And this goes beyond, we think of it sometimes as our strengths, but actually is going beyond your strengths, because again, strengths are innate in you as an individual. Influencing is, how do I build the influence? How do I create the influence? And creating and building influence is asking your clients beyond the questions of what are my strengths. It's beyond of, how do I inspire and motivate you based on who I am? And then it's also working with a coach, you know, maybe a business coach, a mentor, a role model, somebody that somebody can give you an outside objective opinion on how you make them feel, how energetically you're showing up as a leader. As well as, I have a great assessment that people can also take called Energy Leadership. I know Joe's yourself has taken it in the past. And it's really a great 75 to 90 questionnaire that you can really get a sense of how you are showing up in the world. And also, you know, what level maybe you are resonating with people. And there's no good or bad or judgment around what level you're resonating with people. It just is. It's just the level that you're resonating with people. And you are going to be influencing many of those similar to you. So.
That's very neat. I mean,
yeah.
Like with the Energy Leadership Survey that you're talking about, I mean, is that founded in science or?
It's founded around science as well as case studies. So there was a gentleman by the name of Bruce Schneider. He's also based from New Jersey. And he did a lot of studying under like Tony Robbins' group and the John Maxwell's. And he has his own organization of IPEC that I've studied my coaching program from, Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. And his Energy Leadership Assessment is one that he's created. And there's some sheets and studies around it that I can send to people if anyone were particularly interested. But it really just is about helping people understand how they're showing up, how they're being a leader for themselves and for those around them.
Very neat.
Yeah.
And I took it, and I think it's very important, no matter how seasoned you are, or if you're just starting out, or you've been doing whatever you're doing forever. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago. We're not the same people we were a year ago. I mean, there's some things that are the same, but there's some things that are evolving, and the people that maybe were on our team 5 years ago are very, I can vouch for that, are very different than, you know, the new people that you're working with and the new energy that you're in and the new social influences that you're under. So, you know, I thought it was very eye-opening to me to take a look at my own energy and where I am. This was a really great pulse, you know, and if it's good enough for John Maxwell, it's good enough for me. I thought that it was very comprehensive. I've studied a lot of different leadership programs and have taken a lot of different assessments. And the other thing I really like, Melissa, that you did is, you know, you can go and you can take a survey of something, and there's plenty of them out there, and a lot of them have no scientific validity whatsoever. And you can do that, but the reality is it's so nice when you have somebody to guide you along and help you interpret your own results. And I think that's what I really liked about it, Melissa, was that you were there for me to actually be like, okay, let's talk about like what this actually means in context of what you're really doing, not just like theoretically, okay, I took this, that was interesting, next.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and there are other assessments out there. There's like the DISC assessment and the Myers-Briggs assessment. And this is just an additional assessment. And the difference is this is attitudinal. Theirs are more personality-based and communication style-based. So this is more of what's your overall attitude on things.
Very cool. Great. So if people wanted to reach out to you to take this, I know everyone's like, no, I want to know about me. No, I don't want to know about me. How do they do that? Can you just tell us right here?
Well, obviously they can go visit my website. It's melissasanchezcoaching.com. So there's a form that you can fill out because it shows the different options of what I offer as part of my services. And this is obviously one of those services that I offer. So they can certainly fill out the form, list in there that they're interested in taking an energy leadership assessment. And from there, we'll start corresponding and I can give them additional details.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. Now, I'm also curious, when we're talking about influence, oftentimes when I talk to entrepreneurs about this, they're like, okay, well, I want to influence somebody else to buy my products or my services or get me on a stage or sign my contract. You know, so it's very external. I'm curious though, what are your thoughts about using influence to actually influence ourselves? Can it also be internal or is it just external?
It can also be internal. I think like you mentioned earlier, being able to look at who your external role models are, who your influencers that you look up to and you follow, what is it that they're doing can sometimes help maybe internally motivate us, internally inspire us. So seeing what others are doing around you, who are some of the people you're following, can also spurt some influence on ourselves internally. However, it can be a bit more challenging in terms of influencing ourselves, especially when you're going through difficult times, you know, and life just happens. So being able to influence ourselves can be a bit more challenging as life takes a toll on us. And ways that you can try to find, you know, to get out of that is one, just allowing life to be. I mean, that's just part of it. Being an influencer doesn't always necessarily mean you have to be on all the time. Being an influencer can actually mean you can be vulnerable. You can share about your struggles. You can share about the times that maybe you tried this marketing approach and it didn't work and it failed. And you can now share that and be real and genuine and authentic with those around you, all your followers, to say, hey, I'm not perfect too. I stumble across certain things as well. And I also, have tried things that didn't really work for me, but it only continues to lead you on to the next thing that actually will work. Or, hey, this didn't take as quickly as I expected it to take, but it did finally take. I launched this campaign. I thought I would get new clients in 2-3 months. It didn't happen in that fast of a time frame, but it happened in 6 to 9 months. So being able to influence yourself is also about getting into that mindset of, things will happen, things will set you back. Accepting what's going to set you back and deciding how do you want to move forward. And when I say the word deciding is, again, making that conscious choice in your brain as to, well, yes, the setback happened, but what am I now going to do about it, right? So not feeling or falling victim to the world around us is how you can better influence yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And I love that you're giving us permission, not that we need permission from an outside source, but it is nice to hear that, that we have the choice to let ourselves, as part of the influence process, be totally okay with failure, because we're all failing.
Yes.
We're not failures, but we're all failing.
Yeah. And it goes back to the movie Inside Out. I don't know if anyone watched the Disney movie Inside Out. It's, of course, me and my son and all his lovely shows he loves to watch and movies he loves to watch. It's what that young character, Riley, she had to be able to, really dwell and live in the sadness at times to really then appreciate and enjoy the happy times, right? So it's not that you're going to live there permanently and forever, but it's about kind of taking the time out to just, sometimes it's tough. It just is. We're living life. It just gets tough. And so, yes, being able to kind of step out and influence yourself to overcome a lot of those obstacles.
And something I'll share is, for me, I'm much better at influencing myself in areas that are fun, that I'm historically strong at. But things that aren't moving as well as I like, I know for myself, obviously, if I was good at moving them, they would have been moved. So,
yeah.
I think for me, and this, me personally, is that I need outside structure. So one way to influence myself sometimes is to give myself an accountability structure outside of myself to make sure things get moving where they weren't moving, because I sure as heck, if I haven't moved it, it's probably not going to happen, or not anytime soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, Melissa, the other thing I'm really curious about is in terms of, taking the concept of influence and just making it super uber practical for everybody on this call, so people are like, okay, Melissa, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves right now. I want to go out there. I want to hit the pavement after this call, and just really be influential. So what would you say are the top 3 to 5 ways to really build influence?
Yeah, I think number one, and you've said it multiple times here on the call, is curiosity. Really being curious about a process, a system, a client, a potential client you want to work with. Really being curious about them. And by curious, it means non-judgmental, asking questions, not making some pre-assumptions about things. Just kind of asking questions, being completely and genuinely curious about another person or another situation. So that's the first thing in terms of being influential, because the more curious you can become, the better you understand where they're coming from, and the better then you can now communicate and either share a story, relate a situation, or talk about a benefit that you have to offer or a solution that you can provide. So that's about number one, is being as curious as you can be.
So I'm going to stop you right there for 1 second. I just want everyone to, as you're writing this down with the real pen, I want you to actually take a minute, just 1 minute, pause it here, and I want you to write down, in reality, pick someone, pick. Is it a client? Is it a family member? Is it somebody in a networking group? Is it somebody in our PHP leadership team? Like, pick someone specific that you want to be more curious with, okay? Because let's make this super uber practical.
Yeah.
Okay? Ready?
Great.
Okay, next. Number 2.
Love it. 2 is, when I mentioned being curious to understand the other person's story, tell your story. What is your story about? What have you had to overcome? How did you get to where you are today? And why are you doing what you are doing? Right? Again, so many stories out there, and I don't know if any of you've heard the TED Talk by Simon Sinek. Start with why. It's becoming more and more evident, especially with the flush and the abundant amount of business out there, marketing, how many, products and services that are out there. In order to become an influencer and really make yourself stand out, tell your story. How did you get to where you are today, and why are you doing what you're doing? Right? Your story is going to resonate a lot more with people than just, again, trying to sell the benefits of what you have. Maybe tell them what the story was, and maybe how what you're doing now has really benefited you.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question, Melissa.
Sure.
So you have us, on the edge of our seats.
Yes.
You tell us why for yourself. I mean, you have been highly successful in human resources, and now you're in business and career coaching. Like, why? Like, why are you doing what you're doing right now when you have so many opportunities to do anything?
Yeah, I mean, my story is all about I've consciously decided, and I left the corporate world. I mean, granted, I was set back by an illness for a period of time. So I wasn't able to grow my HR career to where I had originally envisioned it to be, because I was planning at the age of 40 to run a whole HR department all by myself. That did not happen. So my setback was I got injured. I was sidelined for 9.5 months. I had to go through treatments that really took a toll on my body. So it was really tough for me mentally and emotionally and physically, quite frankly, to really get to where I expected to be from an HR corporate ladder perspective. But then I was able to find what it was I was truly passionate about. I was raised by an entrepreneur. My father owned his own dry cleaning business. He owned his own tax preparation services. He was a CPA and a consultant for other types of mid to larger sized companies. So I went back to my roots, and I realized that, I loved what he was doing. I loved how he was providing a service to the community. I believe in these small community environments like what we have here in Silicon Valley, such as the downtown Camels, the downtown Los Gatos, the downtown San Jose. And community is so huge because, again, it gives people that feeling of belonging. But without a community and without successful businesses in those communities, then what happens? It starts to fall apart. So my goal and why I'm doing what I'm doing is I want to support these small business owners, these little entrepreneurs that believe in building community for people so that everyone is just part of feeling like they belong. It's part of that whole small business and entrepreneurial community that they're in. And that they are running their businesses, but they're not running their businesses by themselves. There's other business owners out there to support them. There's other business coaches and business consultants like myself to support them, and that they have that third-party objective opinion and partner to rely on. And which is why PHB is such an amazing community, right? Because we're all about helping each other be successful, especially the women entrepreneurs in our environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're not going to ask you to write your whole story out like at this point, but maybe just make a note, just maybe 1 or 2 words tops. Like, my story goes back to Girl Scouts. I'm not going to tell it to you here, cliffhanger, keep listening. Maybe I'll tell you what. But like, write it down. And then the next step is to actually expand upon it with somebody who can help you really dive in and make it catchy and compelling and interesting, so that you can continue to use it. Okay? Go
Absolutely.
Ahead. So we have curiosity, we have tell your story. What's our third one?
My third one is connect emotionally with people. So if you're able to connect emotionally with people, and this is, again, going beyond the everyday questions of how's your day going, or you go to those networking groups, what do you do, and how's business been this past couple of weeks? Really connect with them on a different level. Like, tell me more about your family. Tell me what you like to do for fun. Or what has been maybe one of your most challenging situations this past week? Just emotionally connecting with people beyond a cerebral sense, but really pulling at the heartstrings and finding what their true passions are, finding out what they're truly passionate and they get excited, what they get excited about. That's how you can emotionally connect with people. So again, another homework that people can do, like you said earlier around curiosity, is what are some questions that they can come up with in terms of how to emotionally connect with people at networking events or people they encounter. What's a different spin on a question they can ask that goes below the surface? So curious, emotionally connect, tell your story, be cognizant of your body language. So body language is also a huge part of being an influencer, okay? And your body language should mimic your beliefs and your values. So, if you're a more open person, figure out how to start talking more with your open hands. If you're a more structured, more stern person, maybe you're doing more, of this, more structural type positions. Even the way you stand, even the way when you start talking with people, if you want to be more warm and fuzzy, again, and get them to be more open with you, you might have to lean in a little bit more. Mirror some of their behaviors. You hear that a lot in typical sales strategy talks. It's mirroring of the other person's behavior. But in influencing, it's maybe not so much mirroring your potential client's behavior. This is now, what do you believe in and how do you envision yourself as an influencer, and then your body language fall suit as well. So it's more, again, about your beliefs and how you want to influence others. And it can be, again, if you feel you want to smile more often because you're so much more happy and joyous inside, do it. If you're upset, it's fine. Be more upset, be more angry, it just really is about finding what is influencing for you, your definition of influence, and then what should be some behavior, body language, behavioral things you're doing that matches your beliefs of you being the influencer.
And I'm going to jump in and give an example. It's really quick.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Business. So when I had first started Promote Her Business, I was thinking about the culture and the energy that I wanted it to have. And one thing that was so important to me was it being supportive and having like this nurturing spirit, which was reflected in my body language of hugging people. I love to hug people. I'm a hugger. I couldn't do it back when I also have a little bit of HR experience because it's appropriate. But as an entrepreneur, you know what? I could do it. And so I decided, to hug people. And it was funny because I was challenged, because I remember maybe about a year into having Promote Her Business, somebody comes to a networking event and they said to me, somebody said, oh yeah, what's Promote Her Business? And this person jumps in and they go, that's the place you go to if you want to get hugged.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, on one hand, my brain was going, well, maybe it's not appropriate and maybe I shouldn't do it. And, for the two people that don't like to be hugged. And then I'm like, you know what? No, like you said, you're choosing as an influencer how you want to be and the role model you want to have. And, you're going to attract some people by leaning in, and you're not going to attract some people by leaning in, and that's okay, So I love that permission. And I think it's so brilliant, Melissa. I've never heard somebody say to actually look at your body language as part of the influencing process. Brilliant. So
absolutely.
Make sure to pause it here and really think about, physically. I'm not saying everyone has to hug everyone. Yes, I am. But yes. Just think about it, right?
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I worked with a VP of finance in my corporate days, and she was a small, petite Asian woman, and she was a woman of influence, again, in the predominantly, at an executive level in a business news environment, which is again predominantly men. But she was this small, petite Asian woman as a VP of finance, and she made that conscious decision to every time you would go shake her hand, it would hurt. It literally would hurt. And it was on purpose because I want to be a woman of influence that can still be powerful in my handshake. So the opposite of that is that's what she consciously chose. Like if you're choosing to hug because you want that nurturing culture and that feeling of support and vulnerability, she wanted that. I am a woman of influence here that can really help you with your finances, and shook your hand as stern as could be that your hand would actually hurt. And it was a huge surprise to so many people, but it's that body language that also evokes that influence.
Very cool.
Great.
And I'm glad I didn't shake her hand.
Yeah, she would shake my hand. I'm like, oh no, do I really need to go shake Christy's hand right now? Yeah. And so my fifth one, I know we went over 4, right? So curiosity, tell your story, emotionally connect with people, be cognizant of your body language. Your body language is key. The 5th one I would say is be vulnerable, right? Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think Brene Brown has a really great TED Talk. Brene Brown has a really great TED Talk on vulnerability and why it's just so important for us to be more vulnerable, because again, that also lends itself very well to emotionally connecting with your audience, with the people you want to work with. And again, sales is an emotional decision. If you're out there selling your product or your service, they will buy off of emotion, right? So it's an emotional decision, and they will buy more if they trust you as well, right? So trust is huge. So how much more can you build trust by being vulnerable with someone? It just really is one of those things that goes hand in hand. By building trust is by being vulnerable and emotionally connecting with them.
Yeah. And I really love what you're saying, because, sometimes people have said to me, they're afraid to be vulnerable because it could hurt their credibility. But I've actually seen it on the opposite side. When you come to me and do a one-on-one with me and you're like, every single thing in my life is working and there is nothing ever wrong with anything I'm doing, it's like too good to be true. I start being like, oh, okay, I'm going to walk away slowly.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Life happens. It's a roller coaster. And as an entrepreneur, it's much more of a roller coaster. So when everything's just a high and dandy, I gotta question that. I wonder. Yeah. Great.
Cool. And one thing I would encourage everyone to do is feel free, you're sitting here, you're ruminating, you're doing this amazingly powerful exercise, feel free to post how it's going for you, post on how it is for you to be vulnerable or tell your story or more emotionally connect with others, right? And just post it in our PHB members only Facebook group, which is totally a safe space to, let us know what you're doing and also keep us accountable for participating in this powerful exercise and share best practices.
Great.
So Melissa, we talked a little bit about leveraging our influence now to promote ourselves and promote what we believe in. I'm curious, because PHB is all about promoting your business and each other, online, offline, all the time. What would you say that we as community can do to better leverage our collective influence to promote each other?
I think, again, it's about, if you haven't had a one-on-one lately with another PHB member of the community, schedule a one-on-one. Get to know the members of this community. Get to find out what they're about, what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. And if you're able to kind of continue to build those relationships with the members of this community, collectively, it's going to grow. And collectively, we build influence amongst each other. Because now I could easily say, hey, I talked with Avni, our wonderful PHP president, and here's what she's working on, here's what she's doing, and I am now a believer in what she has to provide as a product and service, and we can better promote each other more genuinely. And again, from that emotional connection side of things, here's what she's about, here's why she got into what she was doing, and it tells other people again your story and helps you then gain more influence through word of mouth. And so if we're able to do that together more as a community, it really will then also help leverage PHP as an organization as well, because other people will start hearing about, oh, have you heard about PHP? And here's what they're doing. Here's what they believe. And here's why they're doing what they're doing. Going back to inspiring and motivating other people to action is based upon how they hear what you're doing, how you're influencing others, what you want to get accomplished.
That's great. And I love how you're giving us tips to build this really tight-knit community and, even getting to know each other on a deeper level, because, you come to events. I've definitely had people say that to me. I'm like, oh, did you schedule a one-on-one? And they said, no. Oh, well, I already talked to her over lunch. And what would you say about that, Melissa?
Really? If you talked to her over lunch, what did you learn about that person? What would you say she is about? What something that you could tell me about their product or service that would compel me to want to talk to them too, or about them. So being able to, again, influence others to wanting to talk to other members of the community is key.
That's great. And if you can't answer that question, schedule another one-on-one with them. Because sometimes we don't get it. Like, it took me a long time in my life to realize that I don't listen. Like, my listening skills, I don't really listen sometimes. And, and it took me to realize that I only could get to a certain point with people unless I was intentional about really wanting to get to know them. Otherwise, it was all about me and what I was trying to get them to do. And then I couldn't even remember on a deeper level past their title what they really did. But that's like the next level, what Melissa's talking about for you as an influencer to really get in people's worlds, is getting that next level and, hearing them out. And if you notice for yourself that you're not getting that information because it is about you and you don't have to tell us that, but just admit it to yourself, then do even more one-on-ones with people so that you build it into a habit of curiosity.
Correct.
Yeah. So Melissa, you gave us so much awesome information today. If there is only one or two golden nuggets that you just really want our community to walk away with, what would they be?
The biggest one, I think, is, you've said it again multiple times on this call, is be curious. Really be curious. Go beyond the surface level of conversations and connect with people, because curiosity will really help you get there. And number two, really take some time to think about what type of influencer you want to be. What are the areas that you're most passionate about? What are the things that you really want to accomplish? And who are the people that you really want to help? Right? And if you can identify who you want to help, what you want to accomplish, it'll direct you better to who you want to be and what type of influencer you want to be.
It's awesome.
Yes.
And so if people want some coaching around that, to really be in their power as influencer, or have a partner or somebody to hold them accountable, somebody to help them make sure they're moving in the right direction of influence, catch what they miss. I know you've caught a lot of things that most people miss about influence or influencing, and the connection between sales and leadership and influencing. How do people reach out to you? Can you tell us your website again? How to contact you?
Yeah, my website is melissasanchezcoaching.com. So it's MELISSASANCHEZ coaching.com. I've got a form on there. I've got some blogs on there, some information. Just, go ahead and check it out. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn very, very frequently. So again, it's Melissa E. Sanchez on LinkedIn, because there's several Melissa Sanchez's on LinkedIn. I'm based in San Jose. And then, of course, Facebook as well. Facebook, you'll find me, Melissa Sanchez Coaching is there also as a site. Or you can also call me or text me if you want to schedule an appointment. I can be reached. I can give you my phone number. It's 408-444-7041. So various different ways you can connect with me, as well as come see me at the next PHB Luncheon on Wednesday, July 25th. It's at PY Kitchen at the Prune Yard, right around the corner from the Prune Yard in Campbell. And I would love to connect with you more there as well.
Yes, and everybody is going to want to attend our fourth Wednesday luncheon. We're still on our topic of influence, and it's one thing to listen and to do this for yourself, but it's another thing to actually be immersed. We want you to be immersed in the energy of influence and discussing it and networking and bringing Melissa back to tell us golden nuggets that we missed, that we even ran out of time to really talk about today. And she's going to expand even more on influence. So if you want to be the most powerful influence, get in the conversation, vocalize what it means, right, to you. It's like another level of accountability, and it also inspires other people, right? So come to the luncheon, invite a friend. That's the other part of being influential is, influencing people to do things which can best benefit themselves and the world. And by them being part of our Promote Her Business community, they connect to some of the most supportive, driven, trailblazing entrepreneurs on this planet. They're getting the best information in marketing and sales and influence today. They're going to love you that you connected them to this community. They're going to walk away like, oh, she is so cool. And every time she calls me, she isn't just promoting her own business, but she's actually giving me resources, which is also one thing I admire in influencers.
Absolutely.
So Melissa, is there anything else, any other special programs, any other special things you want us to know about you or what you're up to?
Yeah, well, taking a brief break for the summer just because it's summertime and I've got my son home for me full time. But for the most part, yeah, if you keep in touch in terms of my website, subscribe if you can to a newsletter. I send that out typically once a month or once every other month, and I will keep everyone informed in terms of what's happening next with me.
Awesome.
Yes.
So immediately following this interview today, you will also be sent out a survey. Let us know what you think of this. Like Melissa says, we're curious. We are super uber curious on, what you want more of. What didn't Melissa cover that you wish she would have covered? I know we were such raving fans of her last interview. We want even more ideas about what else we can cover that you want to hear, right? And we are not psychic, at least not that I'm aware of currently, but, so you have to tell us what you want. We're creating a whole marketing sales curriculum around your personalized needs. No other groups are doing this. So please fill out the survey, take 2 minutes, and you can win big. You can win a 1-hour consult on what will make the biggest difference in your business this year. So just take 2 minutes, win big. All right. And with that said, Melissa, give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Hey. We will see you next time. Keep promoting your business and each other. Say it with me now.
Online, offline, all the time.
Bye, everybody.